I found a notebook in my boyfriend's drawer with dozens of pages about me. When I asked him why he was stalking me, he sadly said, "You wished for someone like me." I just listened. I kept silent. I moved away and never looked back. But then last night, someone left violets on my porch. I think he's back. After my last breakup, I was a mess. My ex had cheated on me with someone from his gym, and I found out through a mutual friend who accidentally let it slip. I moved back to my hometown hoping for a reset. One night, while drinking wine at a bar with my roommate, I said, half joking and half sad, "Universe, send me someone who loves dogs, hates olives, and plays piano." A week later, I met Nino at a used bookstore downtown. He was charming, soft-spoken, and easy to talk to. His rescue dog sat by his feet like it had known me forever. We chatted about music, and he mentioned he played piano at his church. Then, while we looked through a cookbook section, he wrinkled his nose and said he hated olives. I froze for a second. Then I laughed and told him he might be my cosmic sign. He laughed too. I had no idea how serious he took that. We started dating. He brought my favorite flowers to our second date. On the third, he made me pasta and poured my favorite wine without asking. He listened closely, remembered everything. He sent me good morning texts with memes I actually found funny. He brought up little things I forgot I told him. A band I loved in middle school. A weird childhood fear. At first it felt romantic. Then it started to feel strange. He started showing up at places. Not like stalking. Not yet. But little coincidences. Once I ran into him at the farmer's market across town. Another time, he was outside the building when I got out of therapy, saying he just happened to be in the area. My stomach would tighten, but I'd smile. I told myself not to be dramatic. Then things escalated. One night I mentioned to a friend I was craving a rare dessert from a bakery 2 cities away. The next day, it was on my porch. I hadn't even told him I wanted it. I started wondering if he was reading my messages or somehow listening to me, but that felt paranoid, so I let it go. Until the notebook. We'd been dating for about 5 months. I was at his place feeding his dog while he ran out for groceries. I was looking for a pen and opened the wrong drawer. That's when I found it. A black notebook, worn at the corners. I flipped it open. My name was at the top of every page. Details about me. What I wore, what I liked, what I said, places I went, my dog's food brand, my shampoo. One page just listed. Dad died of cancer, 2017. Doesn't like hospital smell. Avoid topics. Trauma, abandonment. At the bottom of another page, I saw it. Universe, wish, dog, piano, no olives, deliver all. My hands started shaking. I closed it, put it back, sat down like my knees gave out. When he came back, I acted normal. He kissed me, asked if I wanted tacos. I said I was tired and left. I didn't answer his text the next day. I confronted him 2 nights later in a public place. I told him I knew he was stalking me. He didn't deny it. He looked embarrassed, not ashamed. "I heard you say it." That night, I was at the table behind you, and I just felt like maybe I could be that person. Maybe I already was. I told him we were done. He begged me to understand. I walked away. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. My email was hacked. My Instagram got locked for suspicious activity. My roommate's cat got out one night even though she swore she hadn't opened the window. I started keeping my keys in my pocket even inside the house. Then I got a letter. It said, "I still remember what you looked like when you first saw me. You looked like you believed in something." I started documenting everything. I bought cameras, changed passwords, logged every incident. One night I told him I wanted to talk. He came over. I had my phone recording from my pocket. He confessed to everything. The listening, the watching, the notebook, the late night visits just to make sure I was safe. He said he never meant to hurt me, that I asked for someone like him. I gave the recording to the police, filed for a restraining order, sent it to his job and church. He lost both and he moved out of town. Months passed. I started breathing again. Until last week. I was walking my dog at a park in my new neighborhood. I heard a woman laugh. It stopped me in my tracks. I looked up. She had a corgi. She was telling the man next to her about how she hated olives. I couldn't see his face at first. Then I did. It was Nino, and he was smiling. I turned and walked the other way. That night, someone left flowers on my doorstep. Violets, my favorite. I never told Nino those were my favorite. I was terrified, and within a week, I started noticing strange things right away. My dog started barking at night, always around the same time, 2:47 a.m. I'd check the windows, the doors, but nothing. Just darkness and my own racing heartbeat. The barking would stop after exactly 3 minutes, every single night. Then packages started disappearing. Small ones at first, a book I ordered, some vitamins. The delivery photos showed them on my porch, but by the time I got home, gone. I complained to the delivery companies. They said it happened sometimes. I installed a doorbell camera. The camera caught nothing, just empty footage of my porch. But the packages kept vanishing. I started having them delivered to my office instead. One morning, I found a single black glove on my windowsill, men's size, left hand. It wasn't there when I went to bed. My bedroom was on the second floor. The window had been locked. I threw the glove in the trash and called a locksmith. Changed every lock in the house. Added deadbolts, window locks, a security bar for the sliding door. The barking continued. 2:47 a.m., 3 minutes, like clockwork. I started sleeping with my phone recording. Maybe I could catch something, some sound, some evidence. The recordings showed nothing but my dog's barking and my own restless movements. Then I saw the car. A gray sedan, parked 3 houses down. It was there when I left for work. There when I came home. Different spots, but always within view of my house. The windows were tinted. I couldn't see inside. I wrote down the license plate, but when I checked the next day, the numbers had changed. Same car, different plate. Or maybe I was losing it. I called my therapist, scheduled an emergency session. She said trauma could manifest in many ways. Hypervigilance, paranoia. She increased my anxiety medication. I nodded and smiled and didn't tell her about the glove. The woman from the park kept creeping into my thoughts. The one with the corgi. The one who hated olives. I'd gotten a glimpse of her face. Young, maybe mid-20s. Brown hair and a ponytail. She'd looked happy, carefree, the way I used to look. I found her on social media. Took some digging, but the corgi was distinctive. Her name was Victoria. Recent posts showed her at coffee shops, hiking trails, the farmer's market. Normal life stuff. Then I noticed something. In the background of a photo from 2 weeks ago, barely visible. A gray sedan. I messaged her. Kept it vague at first. Said I'd seen her at the park, loved her dog, wondered if we could grab coffee. She responded quickly. Seemed excited to make a new friend. We met at a cafe downtown. Victoria was bubbly. Talked fast, gestured with her hands. She'd just moved to town for a new job. Marketing. She loved it here. So peaceful. So safe. Then she mentioned him. "I've been dating this guy," she said, stirring her latte. "Super sweet. Plays piano at his church. Has this rescue dog that's just the sweetest thing." My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. I kept my face neutral. Asked how they met. "Funny story," she said. "I was at this bookstore downtown, looking at cookbooks. We started talking about food, and I mentioned how I hate olives. He said that was perfect because he hated them too, like it was fate or something. The room tilted. I gripped my cup to steady myself, asked how long they'd been dating. Just a couple weeks, she said, but he's so attentive, remembers everything, already knows my favorite flowers, my coffee order. It's like he really sees me, you know? I knew. God, I knew. I set down my cup carefully, told her I needed to share something, warned her it would sound crazy. She leaned in, curious. I told her everything. The notebook, the stalking, the restraining order. Watched her face change from interest to confusion to fear. She started, stopped, pulled out her phone. That's why I blocked his number. My heart stopped. You already blocked him? Yesterday, she said. He knew things I never told him. My mom's maiden name, where I went to elementary school. He said he Googled me, but it was more than that. He knew what I ordered at restaurants before I told him. Knew I was thinking about getting a cat. I never told him that. I only mentioned it to my sister on the phone. We sat in silence. The coffee shop noise faded to white static. I asked if she'd noticed anything else. Cars following her, missing items, strange occurrences. My spare key, she said slowly. I keep it under a fake rock. It was in the wrong spot last week. I thought I was being forgetful. I told her to change her locks, get cameras, document everything, give her the number for my lawyer, the police detective who'd handled my case. She nodded, taking notes on her phone. Her hands shook slightly. The notebook, she said suddenly. Did he have one for me too? I didn't know. Probably. The thought made me sick. We left together, walked to our cars. I watched her drive away, checking her mirrors constantly. The gray sedan wasn't there. Small mercy. That night, the barking started at 2:46 a.m., 1 minute early. I lay still, listening. 3 minutes passed, 4, 5. The dog wouldn't stop. I grabbed a flashlight, crept to the window, saw nothing. The barking continued. Then I saw it. A shadow by the fence, moving. I called 911, stayed on the line, described what I saw. They sent a patrol car. The shadow vanished. The barking stopped. The officers found nothing. Suggested it might have been a raccoon. I didn't argue. The next morning, another glove. Right hand this time. Same windowsill. I bagged it this time. Evidence. The locksmith came back. Installed window alarms. Motion sensors. I was turning my home into a fortress. Victoria texted me. Her spare key was missing entirely now. She'd changed the locks, but items in her apartment had been moved. A photo frame turned slightly. Her coffee mug in the wrong cabinet. Subtle things. Gaslighting things. I drove to her apartment. Helped her install cameras. We went through her devices, checking for tracking apps, spyware. Found nothing obvious. I gave her a new phone number to use. Told her to vary her routines, take different routes, shop at different stores. This is insane, she said. How is he doing this? I didn't know, but I was going to find out. I started my own investigation. Drove by his old apartment, the one I'd been to during our relationship. It was empty. For rent sign in the window. I called the landlord, pretended to be interested. He'd moved out 2 months ago. No forwarding address. I checked his old church. They hadn't seen him since he'd been let go. His job was the same story. No one knew where he'd gone. It was like he'd vanished. Except he hadn't. He was here, watching, waiting. The pieces started forming a pattern. He wasn't just stalking. He was studying, learning routines, preferences, fears, building his notebooks, creating profiles. Then he'd appear. The perfect match. Everything his target had wished for, until they realized the truth. I wondered how many others there had been. How many notebooks. How many women who'd made idle wishes in bars or coffee shops or parks, only to have them twisted into nightmares. Victoria and I started meeting regularly. Safety in numbers. We compared notes, shared updates. The gloves kept appearing, always in pairs. Left, then right, like he was leaving pieces of himself behind. Marking territory, then Victoria found something. A receipt in her mailbox. Not mailed, just placed there. For a storage unit across town. The date was recent. The name on it was smudged, but we could make out the unit number. We sat in my car outside the storage facility, debating. We should call the police. But what would we say? We found a receipt? They'd need a warrant. Probable cause. We had neither. We could just look, Victoria said. See if it's even his. It was a terrible idea. We both knew it. We went anyway. The facility was the kind with outdoor units. Rows of orange doors under flickering lights. Unit 47 was in the back corner. The lock was a combination type. I tried his birthday. Nothing. Victoria tried the date we'd met. Nothing. Then I remembered. The notebook. The way he'd written dates. Month, day, year, backwards. I tried my birthday in that format. The lock clicked open. Inside was worse than I'd imagined. Boxes lined the walls, each one labeled with a name. Sarah, Jessica, Amanda, Rachel, at least a dozen. I found mine. Pulled it down with shaking hands. Inside the box were photographs, hundreds of them. Me at the grocery store, walking my dog, through my bedroom window. Some dated back to before we'd even officially met. There were printouts of my social media posts, screenshots of text conversations with friends, receipts from places I'd been, a whole life documented without my knowledge. Victoria opened another box. Her hands trembled as she pulled out similar items. Photos of her at work, at her gym, even one through her bathroom window with a curtain slightly open. She dropped everything back in the box and stepped away. We need to leave, I said. But Victoria was already opening another box. This one belonged to someone named McCatherine. The photos were older, grainier. There was a newspaper clipping. Missing person report. My blood went cold. We heard footsteps outside. Victoria grabbed my arm. We stood frozen, barely breathing. The footsteps passed. Just someone going to their unit. We quickly photographed everything we could with our phones, then carefully put the boxes back. Made sure nothing looked disturbed. Back in the car, Victoria was shaking. That woman, McCatherine. What if she didn't just disappear? What if he... I didn't let her finish. Couldn't let her finish. We drove straight to the police station. This time we had evidence. Real evidence. The detective who'd handled my case wasn't there, but another officer took our statement, looked at our photos, said they'd investigate. 3 days passed. Nothing from the police. Victoria stayed at my place. We took turns sleeping, watching. The dog still barked at 2:47 a.m. The gray sedan appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Then Victoria's apartment was broken into. Nothing stolen, but everything was slightly wrong. Furniture moved inches from where it had been. Clothes rearranged in her closet. Food in her refrigerator reorganized. The cameras showed nothing. They'd been disabled somehow. The footage corrupted. We went back to check the storage unit. The lock had been changed. Our evidence meant nothing without access. The police said they were working on getting a warrant, but these things took time. Time we didn't have. I started researching the missing woman, McCatherine. Found old social media profiles. She'd lived 2 towns over, worked at a library, had a cat. In one of her last posts, she'd mentioned meeting someone new, someone perfect, someone who loved cats, hated spicy food, and collected vintage books, just like she'd wished for. The pattern was clear now. He found women at vulnerable moments, listened to their wishes, their dreams, then became exactly that, until they discovered the truth. And then what? Most seemed to just disappear from his life, traumatized but alive. But McCatherine. Victoria found more names online. Women who'd filed restraining orders against men who matched Nino's description. Different names he'd used. Different cities. Always the same pattern. We created a spreadsheet. Tracked dates, locations, outcomes. The evidence was overwhelming, but scattered. No one had connected the dots before. My phone rang at 3 a.m. unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. You're not supposed to be doing this. His voice was calm, almost sad. You're ruining everything. I put him on speaker. Victoria started recording with her phone. Where's McCatherine? I asked. Silence. Then, she didn't understand. None of you understand. I give you exactly what you want. I become perfect for you. And you throw it away. You're not perfect. You're sick. I'm what you asked for. His voice hardened. You wished for me. All of you wished for me. I just listened. The line went dead. We'd gotten his confession about McCatherine, sort of. But was it enough? The next morning, I woke to find Victoria gone. Her car was still outside. Her phone on the kitchen counter. But she was nowhere. I called the police immediately. They said she had to be missing for 24 hours. I screamed at them about the pattern, the danger. They said they'd send someone to check her apartment. I couldn't wait. I drove to every place I thought she might be. The coffee shop, her office, the park where she walked her dog. Nothing. As I drove, I noticed the gray sedan following me, not even trying to hide anymore. I pulled into a parking lot, got out, walked straight to the sedan, banged on the window. Where is she? The window rolled down. It wasn't Nino. It was a woman I'd never seen before. Blonde hair, nervous eyes. He said you'd come, she said. He wants to trade you for her. My mind raced. Another victim? An accomplice? I couldn't tell. Who are you? Benji. I mean, that's what he calls me. My real name is. She paused. It doesn't matter. I've been with him for 2 years. I thought I was special, the only one. But then he started talking about you. How you were the one who got away. How he needed to fix things. 2 years. While I'd been rebuilding my life, he'd been with someone else, playing the same game. Where is Victoria? Safe, for now. But you need to come. Alone. No police. She handed me an address. 1 hour. I should have called the police. Should have been smart. But Victoria was in danger because of me. Because I'd warned her. Because I'd tried to help. The address led to an old house on the outskirts of town. Isolated. The kind of place where screams wouldn't be heard. I parked down the road, texted the address to 3 friends with instructions to call police if I didn't check in within an hour. The front door was open. I walked in slowly. The house smelled musty, abandoned, but there were fresh footprints in the dust. Down here, his voice came from below, the basement. I found the stairs. Each step creaked under my weight. At the bottom, a single bulb lit the space. Victoria was tied to a chair, tape over her mouth, but her eyes were alert, angry, alive. Nino stood beside her. He looked different, thinner, hollow-eyed. The charming man from the bookstore was gone. Let her go, I said. This is between us. Is it? He pulled out a notebook, not black this time. Red. Do you know what this is? It's my first one. From before I learned to be careful, before I learned to listen properly. He opened it. The pages were filled with drawings, crude, childish drawings of a woman, notes in messy handwriting. Mom left when I was 7. Said she wished she'd never had me, so I wished she'd come back. Wished I could be what she wanted. Better. Perfect. I kept my face neutral, but inside I was calculating. The distance between us. The rope around Victoria's wrists. The stairs behind me. She never came back, he continued. But I learned something. People always tell you what they want. You just have to listen. Really listen. And then give it to them. That's not love, I said. That's manipulation. His face twisted. It's giving people what they ask for. What they dream about. How is that wrong? I took a step closer. Because it's not real. You can't build a relationship on lies. Lies? He laughed. It was an ugly sound. I became everything you wanted. I studied you. Learned you. Devoted myself to being perfect for you. And you called the police. Had me fired. Ruined my life. Another step. You ruined your own life. You chose to stalk me. To violate my privacy. To hurt people. Hurt people? He grabbed Victoria's hair. Yanked her head back. She made a muffled sound of pain. I've never hurt anyone. Unlike you. I heard footsteps upstairs. Quiet, careful footsteps. The woman from the car. Police? I needed to keep him talking. What about McCatherine? His hand stilled. She left. They all leave. Even when I'm perfect, they leave. Where did she go? Away. His voice was distant now. She said she was going away. Said I scared her. How could I scare her? I was everything she wanted. The footsteps were on the stairs now. Nino heard them too. His head snapped up. You called them. Not a question. An accusation. Number. But maybe your girlfriend did. Benji? Maybe she's tired of sharing you with your obsessions. His face went pale. He moved toward the stairs, leaving Victoria. I rushed to her, working at the knots. They were tight, but badly tied. Rushed. You don't understand, he was saying to someone on the stairs. This isn't what it looks like. Benji appeared, but she wasn't alone. 2 police officers flanked her. She'd been wearing a wire, playing along to catch him. I understand perfectly, she said. I've understood for months. Finding the storage unit was the last straw. Nino backed away, looked between her and me. You planned this, together. No, I said, finally freeing Victoria's hands. We've never met before today, but apparently we both got tired of your games. The police moved in. Nino didn't resist. He just looked, confused, like he couldn't understand how his perfect plan had failed. As they led him up the stairs, he turned back. I just wanted to be loved, to be what someone wished for. That's the thing, I said. Real love doesn't come from wishes. It comes from truth. The next hours were a blur. Statements, evidence. Benji had been documenting everything for months, building a case. She'd found the storage unit first, contacted the police. When they'd been slow to act, she'd reached out to his other victims, found me, decided to force his hand. Victoria was okay. Shaken, angry, but okay. She'd been grabbed from my backyard while letting the dog out. He'd been watching, waiting for an opportunity. The storage unit revealed more than we'd initially seen. Journals going back years, dozens of women. Most had simply disappeared from his life when they discovered the truth. But 3, including McCatherine, were listed as failed projects. Their boxes contained more than photos. They contained detailed plans. For what, we'd never know. The police found no bodies, no evidence of violence beyond the stalking. McCatherine was located a month later, alive. She'd changed her name, moved across the country, started over. She'd been running for 3 years, convinced he'd find her. The relief in her voice when she learned he'd been arrested was heartbreaking. Benji turned out to be named Catherine. She'd met him the same way we all had. A casual wish in a public place. He'd appeared like magic, perfect in every way, but she'd been too desperate, too lonely to question it, until she'd found the storage unit and realized she was just one in a long line. The trial was straightforward. With multiple victims, documented evidence, and his own recorded confessions, conviction was certain. He was sentenced to 15 years, with mandatory psychiatric treatment. During the sentencing, he still seemed confused, still insisted he'd only wanted to make people happy. Victoria and I stayed in touch. Trauma bonds are strange but strong. We started a support group for stalking victims, shared our story online. The response was overwhelming. So many women with similar experiences. Not all with the same person, but the same pattern. The same violation disguised as romance. I still have trust issues. Still check my locks twice. Still wake up sometimes at 2:47 a.m. expecting to hear barking, but I'm healing. Learning to trust my instincts again. Learning that real love doesn't require someone to study you like a subject. It requires them to know you as a person. Sometimes I think about that night in the bar, the wish I made, how different things might have been if I'd just gone home instead. But then I remember all the women who came forward because of our story, who found the courage to report their own stalkers, who learned to recognize the red flags. Maybe everything happened exactly as it needed to. Maybe my wish was answered after all, just not in the way I expected. I adopted a second dog last month, a rescue who barks at strangers and doesn't trust easily. We understand each other. We're both learning that not everyone who seems perfect is dangerous. That real safety comes from trusting yourself, not from locked doors and security cameras. Victoria met someone new recently, a coworker who took 6 months to ask her out because he was too shy, who sometimes forgets her coffee order and definitely doesn't know her mother's maiden name. She says it's refreshing. I understand completely. The universe doesn't owe us perfect people. It owes us real ones. People who see us as we are, not as puzzles to solve or wishes to fulfill. People who love us despite our imperfections, not because they've studied how to manipulate them. I still hate olives, still love dogs, still appreciate piano music, but now I know that finding someone who shares those things isn't magic. It's just life. And life is messier, harder, and ultimately better than any wish could ever be. The storage facility was demolished last year. Something about structural issues. I drove by when they were tearing it down, watched those orange doors crumble. It felt like closure, like finally ending a chapter that had gone on too long. But the real closure came later. A message from McCatherine. She'd gotten married, had a baby, named her Hope. She sent a photo. A normal, happy family photo. No shadows in the background. No hidden meanings. Just life. Moving forward. That's what we all do in the end. We move forward. We heal. We learn. We share our stories not as warnings, but as reminders. That we deserve love that doesn't require surveillance. That wanting someone isn't the same as studying them. That real connection can't be manufactured from wishes and notebooks. The prosecutor called me 3 weeks before the trial. Said they needed my testimony to be rock solid. I spent hours going over every detail, every date, every incident. Victoria did the same. Catherine too. We were building an airtight case, but Nino had a new lawyer. Some hotshot who specialized in stalking cases. Started filing motions to suppress evidence. Claimed the storage unit search was illegal. That we'd broken in without permission. The prosecutor assured us it wouldn't stick, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Victoria moved in with me temporarily. Neither of us felt safe alone anymore. We installed more cameras, changed our routines daily, kept pepper spray within reach. The restraining order was just paper. We both knew that. Then the letters started again. Not from Nino this time. From women we'd never heard of. They'd seen our story online, recognized the pattern. One from Oregon, another from Florida, a third from Canada. All with the same story. A man who appeared after they'd made a wish, who knew everything about them, who turned dangerous when rejected. I created a private online group. Within a week, we had 17 members. Within a month, 43. The stories were eerily similar. Different names, same methods. We started mapping locations, dates, patterns. Some overlapped with times Nino was supposedly with other victims. He couldn't have been in 2 places at once. Catherine messaged me privately one night, said she'd found something in his old laptop. She'd kept it after he was arrested, hidden it from police. Wasn't sure why. Maybe insurance, maybe fear. She wanted to meet in person. We met at a diner 2 towns over. She looked exhausted, thinner than when I'd first seen her in the car. She slid the laptop across the table. There's more than one, she said quietly. He has a mentor, maybe more than one. They share techniques, trade information, like a network. My hands trembled as I opened the laptop, password protected, but Catherine had figured it out. His mother's name backwards. Inside were encrypted folders, chat logs, forums, a whole hidden world of men who studied women like specimens, who competed to see who could create the most perfect persona, who shared their successes. Nino wasn't even his real name. It was Nathan. He'd chosen Nino because some guide said Italian names seemed more romantic. Every detail calculated, every gesture planned. I photographed everything, sent copies to the prosecutor, the FBI cybercrime unit, journalists. This was bigger than just one man. It was systematic, organized. The trial date approached. Nino's lawyer kept filing delays, procedural issues, missing paperwork, anything to buy time. Meanwhile, more women joined our group. More stories emerged. The FBI started a formal investigation. 2 nights before I was supposed to testify, my dog started barking again, 2:47 a.m. But this time, I was ready. I grabbed my phone, my pepper spray, crept to the window, saw a figure by the fence, not hiding, just standing there, watching. I called 911, kept them on the line. The figure didn't move, just stood there as sirens approached. When the police arrived, he raised his hands, let them arrest him without resistance. It wasn't Nino. It was someone I'd never seen before. Young, maybe early 20s. They found a notebook in his pocket. My name on the cover. Pages of observations. He'd been studying me for weeks. Said he'd learned about me from the forums. Wanted to be my perfect match. The prosecutor used it as evidence of the network's danger. The judge finally denied all of Nino's delay tactics. Trial would proceed as scheduled. I testified for 3 hours. Walked through every incident, every violation, every moment of fear. Nino watched me the whole time. Not with anger, with confusion, like he still didn't understand what he'd done wrong. His lawyer tried to paint me as paranoid. Suggested I'd misinterpreted romantic gestures. But then Victoria testified, then Catherine, then 3 other women who'd flown in to share their stories. The pattern was undeniable. The FBI agent testified about the forums, the network, the guides on how to stalk without getting caught, how to gaslight effectively, how to make women doubt their own instincts. Nino's laptop had been a gold mine of evidence. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Stalking, harassment, breaking and entering, cybercrimes. The judge gave him the maximum sentence, 15 years. Mandatory psychiatric treatment. No possibility of early release. Nino stood as they read the verdict, turned to look at me, mouthed something I couldn't make out. Then they led him away. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. I'd prepared a statement with the prosecutor, but when the microphones turned to me, I forgot every word. I just said what came to mind. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself. The story went viral, not just locally, nationally. The FBI hotline received thousands of calls. Women who'd experienced similar situations, who'd been told they were overreacting, who'd been made to feel crazy for being afraid. 6 months later, they arrested 12 more men connected to the network. The forums were shut down. New legislation was proposed to strengthen stalking laws, to take online harassment more seriously, to protect victims before tragedy struck. I moved again. New city, new job, new life, but I kept the online support group active. We had over 300 members now. Women helping women, sharing resources, validating each other's experiences. Victoria started dating that shy coworker, sent me photos from their 6-month anniversary dinner. She looked happy, really happy. Not the performed happiness from before, but something genuine. Catherine went back to school, psychology major, said she wanted to understand how she'd missed the signs, how to help others avoid the same trap. We talked sometimes, compared notes, tried to make sense of it all. The young man who'd been arrested outside my house was sentenced to probation and mandatory therapy. During his allocution, he broke down, said he'd been lonely, desperate. The forums had made it seem so easy, so foolproof. He apologized, seemed to mean it. I hoped he did. I adopted that second dog, a German Shepherd mix who'd been returned to the shelter 3 times for being too protective. We understood each other, both a little broken, both learning to trust again. My therapist said healing wasn't linear. Some days were harder than others. Some nights I still woke at 2:47 a.m., but it was getting better, slowly. A year after the trial, McCatherine reached out again, invited me to her daughter's first birthday party, said I was part of her story, part of how she'd found the strength to stop running, to build a real life. I went, met her husband, held baby Hope, watched McCatherine blow bubbles in the backyard, saw how her husband looked at her with real love, the kind that didn't need notebooks or surveillance, just patience and understanding. On the drive home, I thought about wishes, how we put them out into the universe, how sometimes the universe listens in ways we don't expect. My wish had brought Nino into my life, but it had also brought Victoria, Catherine, McCatherine, all these women who'd become my friends, my chosen family. The support group organized a conference.